You're tuning into CraigCast, the best in Web3, blockchain, NFT, and cryptocurrency technology. Great reviews, incredible interviews with the leading people in Web3. I'm your host, CraigO. Join me on my live stream as we go across multiple platforms, talking to some of the best people in the space. I've done well over 100 episodes, full-length podcasts gone live on multiple channels. All that to be said, CraigCast helps my community to plot, plan, strategize, and implement their next moves. I describe myself as 25% degen. The other 75% is really steadfast to make sure that I understand the long-term implications of this space. I want to bring information to you. We might not happen to the same NFT community, but we are all here, and the bigger bet is on crypto overall. How will blockchain affect a world that will be fully tokenized in the next 10 to 15 years? Where will quantum computing be? How will AI, as it's already been a disruptor, how will that impact us over the next 5 to 10 years? So everything that we do on this stream is long-term in mind. I'm your host, CraigO. Let's get to it. All right, welcome. I'm known as one of the top content creators and conversationalists diving into Web3. I am also your go-to short clip content creator, creating compelling content for all of you. And I want to welcome in 3 incredible guests on today's stream. We're going live on X, YouTube, and Twitch, and eventually we'll go on to Rumble and maybe a few others. I want to welcome in LaRose. I want to also welcome in LaRoseDigital and none other than Jackie. It's so great to have you guys on. How's everything going today?
Feeling phenomenal. How about yourself?
You know, I'm good. This market just has me confused. Like, I feel like my head's just going to explode. Like, everybody's reading a chart. I talked to one person, Matt, and they're like, oh, we're going to go to 40,000. Another person's like, I think there's accumulation in the 70 to 60,000 range. So, Matt, let me just start with you since you're the first one to say GM. Where are we going right now with Bitcoin? And is there a greater story to tell right now?
Well, if I knew the exact answer, I would say my net worth would be a lot higher if I knew the exact direction of what Bitcoin and the rest of the digital asset space is going. I think we're still have some bullishness ahead of the next couple months, but the last month and a half has been devastating. Every time you think the market's going to zig, it zags, and vice versa. So if we are heading into a bear market, things are going to definitely get uglier over the next 6 months. I don't know. I'm positioning myself that it's like a long-term investor. I have money on the side, but I'm just preparing myself for both scenarios.
Pulse, there's a greater story to tell. How do you see right now Bitcoin accumulation phase? And is there something that we should be aware of that we're not really thinking about at this time?
That we should be aware that you can subscribe and hit the notification button wherever you're watching this stream right now so that you can see the show later at another point. Also, I'm worried that there's government uncertainty that's working on the price of Bitcoin right now. I hate that U.S. policy drives things, but I think that U.S. government uncertainty right now is part of that. And you can see on Polymarket that there's concern that the Democrats are going to do well in the midterms. And I've heard that might have an impact on things. We're going to talk about it later, but things like the Clarity Act or the Genius Act and whether or not these things are going to be targeted again or what it means if Trump gets investigated for things he's done in crypto and stuff. So I think people are worried. And I think that fear, uncertainty, and doubt is what I'm seeing in Bitcoin. So
Jackie, I got to ask, are memes dead forever? Are we done? Are we done with memes? Just put them aside. They're never coming back. Where are we?
Oh man, as much as I hope for this great revival, I just feel like right now we have experienced the Temu of meme infiltration, right? Like Pump Fun became Temu for memes, and you can buy the most trash that you want. And if you are a hoarder of crap digital assets, that place is for you. But ultimately, I do think there are enough people around who know the game. And the game was that if you had a community that was willing to believe in something, that you all got together, you bought, you hold, and you had a meme that signified that kind of thing, I think the Pepes, the Shiba Inus, the Doges, these are still a tried and true top 50 up there on the list. And I think they're going to stay there. And I actually think that staying power only will bolster its foundation to the point that you have they're on Robinhood. I think you're going to see a new resurgence, hopefully around this $2,000 dividend check that everybody's supposed to be receiving. Yeah, that was such a stimulus bump in 2021. I just don't. I'm not willing to give up the ghost on memes, but I do think that if we're going to see it happen, it's going to start with the tried and true, the foundations of the Doges, the Sheebs, and the like.
And I know this sounds redundant, but I love Pulse. I love the culture of memes and the community. It feels so good. And everybody, when numbers going up, everybody's happy. There's this hopium that's been ingested into you and you're just breathing it. You and I talked a little bit offline about memes, and we talked a little bit about centralized platforms, token holders. What can we see? What can't we see? Look, you're in a lot of spaces, probably more so than most of us. I would assume. Where do you stand right now on memes? And is this a time where you're collecting some of your favorite memes, just grabbing more, doubling, tripling, quadrupling your bag? Or are you just taking, like me, just taking your hands, just putting them under your laps and doing nothing? What are you doing?
What are you doing?
What are you doing?
Can I copy trade you, Pulse? Don't do that. Let's start with some of the more popular memes. Doge is number one, and then let's go Shiba Inu is the number one, ERC20, then Pepe because it was mentioned, and then we could pick things like maybe Dog with Hat and stuff like that. I am concerned that some of those legacy names will forever have traction because of that fact. I think that there are people that are underwater in a lot of those projects, and you're never going to see certain drops below certain prices just because there's so many people that are under. And I think you'll see adoption of those things. I'll give you an example. Shiba Inu will continue to get adoption with listings or product integrations, not simply because anyone is driving that at that level, but because it is a name to include, because an entire army of people move with it. So you expose yourself to a community when you use Pepe, when you use the memes, when you use Apu and Pepe frogs, you get a certain amount of people that are like, I identify with that, which memes are eventually a form of social identification. So you're taking advantage of the fact that you can get a certain amount of people that come in with your dog or your frog or your whatever it's going to be. So memes are funny like that, because I do think that new things that pop up, where do I trade? I trade hyper emotional shitcoins. I follow the X timeline to see what exactly is the very now thing. And then I try to make an estimated guess based on my best understanding of pop culture as it is. And I make small, meaningless to me gambles into things just to see where it takes off. And I lose 98%, dude. Like 98% of those types of things don't work. And sometimes I make my money back, but it's a form of gambling. Memes have always been like that. But where are the big memes going? Don't know, man. The exchanges control a lot of it, which is what you alluded to. I'm worried that the exchanges control the big ones.
I agree. And I hear you completely. And by the way, there's a 2% that we need to talk about. LaRose, how are you positioning yourself right now on memes? Are you like me, just taking your hands, putting them under your pocket, doing nothing? Or are there a couple plays that you're making? Like, look, I'm bullish on Pepe and some of the boys club meta. Doesn't mean that I'm buying right now. I said just quietly sitting there watching, waiting to see what happens with Bitcoin. What are you doing?
So I currently only hold, funny enough, not just because my nickname is 2%, but I only hold 2 meme coins right now. That might be more in the future. For me, when markets are rough, like I feel like memes is like what kind of gets us out of it every time. So and things go viral like 6, 7. If I hear that joke one more time, I feel like I'm gonna hit the gym 1,000 more times. But for me, like Pudgy Penguins, like that's one that I think is like kind of like a dark horse. Some of the stuff that they've done, like Luca, the CEO, he's just done marvelous things. And the adoption in Asia, it's like transcended just, crypto Web3 audience. So there might be like a viral moment or another community, or maybe something like a Pudgy Penguins that takes it up to the next level. So I do think memes are here to stay. Now, if we're, having a live stream 5 years from now and we're still only talking about memes, I don't think our space matured much. If we're not talking about prediction markets or something else that maybe helped evolve as far as something new for the next cycle.
It was funny. It was reminding me of the Punk token, Punkster, PNKSTR, if I'm correct, and kind of that same vibe, that same feel. I almost felt that when it relates to sort of Pengu as far as what they could do, buying punks off the floor. I love that. And I think that token rose as high as 25 cents. And I felt that FOMO. And I just said, you know what? I've been here before. I've spent too much. I call it, anytime I lose money, I don't know about you, Jackie, but anytime I lose money in the space, I'm like, yeah, I'm just paying for my education. That's what I'm doing. It kind of brings me to that point, right? How do content creators right now, as the market's down, or possibly are we entering into a bear, this 50-week moving average? Jackie, are we in a bear? Are you willing to call it a bear?
I'm definitely willing to call it a downtrend. And I don't know, maybe that's just semantics and a synonym for a bear market. It's not looking good over the last month too. But I will say, I do think this will actually be a shorter snap down before we return backwards. I agree with Pulse that there's a lot of like uncertainty around the political impact of the US and just generally what that looks like. The blessing being that obviously crypto is fairly bipartisan, and we can talk about that later. But I do want to point out that the thing I noticed very, very early on, and I'm talking like 2017, 2018, is that the retracement down is usually somewhere around the all-time high of the former cycle. So that was it. I mean, Bitcoin topped at 69,000. You had a bunch of people FOMO in, and they bought up, and then they held for 3-4 years through the most debauchery and horrible things that this market could ever have experienced, like Celsius, FTX, all of these things crashing down. Luckily, I think the good thing that we have set a precedent for over the last 4 years is that kind of thing is not going to happen again. And I mean, like, knock on wood so hard, but I just don't see a Mt. Gox, an FTX, something like that, without having had the parameters where everybody just kind of generally knows the deal now. Even the hack with wasn't Bitfinex. Bitget, yes.
Bitget.
Even Bitget's hack, not that devastating. And
Yeah.
I feel like that was kind of the proof.
Now, whether the market goes up or down, all four of us are plugged into this space. And so, Pulse, what should content creators be doing right now from your end? Then I want to come to you, Matt, and then Jackie. Pulse, how should content creators be thinking about responsibly positioning themselves? And are there certain topics that you think maybe kind of like you say, well, not pump fun, but what is it? The poly markets, just for example. What are your thoughts?
I think you should look at your analytics and figure out specifically what your audience is coming to you for, because it's very likely that they may have found you through a thing, or like I know that people follow me on my X profile because of my spaces, and then my written content is horrific and confusing. So when they come to my profile, like I know what they're looking for in audio content. I think that as a creator, you got to figure out what it is. Like LaRose's shorts, the way that he's figuring out the little educational shorts are getting shared and snapped up. And then I think what you do is, again, what I said earlier, you got to pay attention to the timeline and really be first to certain narratives, whether it's if you like to share CAs or this is a project that's going up, if you're like a caller or whatever, cool. But you gotta stay tapped in, can't be late. And then if you're doing news, you want to be able to break news. Are you willing to get into the drama stuff? Are you willing to get into the trench news? Are you just trying to do high level DeFi? Use your analytics and poll your audience. Sometimes you might find there's a way for you to actually ask your audience more of what they're looking for. Create a channel. I know a couple of creators that have started their own Telegram channel to go along with whatever content they make, and that they found that helpful because they could get feedback and stars. Telegram stars now is a way for you to get like paid on Telegram too. So I think that staying in touch with your audience is probably the easiest way, and then be like water, shift with your narrative and follow your timeline.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And LaRose, you've been testing out a lot of media platforms. You and I were talking a lot over the summer as far as when it came to TikTok and Instagram and creating these memorable shorts. And I think I really like the one that you did on TVL and really simple breakdowns on some of these terminologies, because I'm not a chart reader guy. For me, I love the short clip content creation around storytelling in the videos. And I love the podcasting arena where we're having these amazing conversations and finding ourselves in this flow state. For you, talk to me about where you're finding your biggest niche. Is it TikTok? Is it Instagram? And if so, what types of videos are you noticing that people are resonating with the most?
Well, for me, I'm a goofball. So as far as like my best videos, it's typically when I'm like being humorous or doing something funny. But with finance being a serious topic, it's hard to like always post funny stuff. I like just making content about like simple concepts and just trying to do it in like bite-sized form for folks. For me, I do more of my content in person as opposed to like online. So I'm trying to become a better content creator when it comes to posting educational shorts. But I host monthly meetups in my local area, Dallas, Texas. And I always tell people like LinkedIn for me is like the dark horse. So many people come to my local events, not because I'm an awesome guy, not because of a joke or a million other reasons. I post my videos on LinkedIn, and a lot of people that come out is because they saw a video I posted on LinkedIn. Again, I don't have a huge following on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn is somewhere where a lot of people are maybe more professional, but there's a gap of content creators. So maybe I might not be the best content creator or I don't know, but like LinkedIn, there's a vacuum of not a lot of content creators. So if you post there, you have more eyeballs. And then also my audience is a lot more targeted as far as like Web3 professionals. That's mostly who I follow. So for me, LinkedIn is like my secret as far as like the best ROI, but I'm under the platform. I try to post everywhere because I feel you never know which platform algorithm might take that video and go far. So for me, I just try to post everywhere. But I do tell content creators, depending on what their niche is, especially if they're still posting something professional, LinkedIn for me has been very rewarding.
You know, Matt, for me, when I see your videos, it's always the subconscious that's most powerful. And the one thing that I think of all three of you, first, Matt, you to me, you're the personification of trust. I feel like when you speak, there's no dishonesty in you whatsoever. To me, that's extremely powerful. And then also think your network is your net worth. And so you connecting with Pulse and building that relationship, I think has been incredibly important in you continuing to springboard forward. And again, as I say, I'm a big fan of your content. You know, Jackie, you know, for me, there's not enough women in this space. And I don't want to tokenize, be like, oh, you're the female, but the women that are in this space are so incredibly awesome because I feel that they balance sort of this emotional component and bring this logic. And there's nothing more. I want to be kosher on this. I want to respect my wife. There's nothing more amazing than seeing a woman in the kitchen cooking, talking about crypto. Are you kidding me? I mean, I like lose my mind in such the most organic sense. It is amazing. So you've done something or have this really amazing niche that I think is just going to explode. The more you cook, the more you're talking about crypto, you're going to have more crypto bros being like, yo, I think she knows what she's talking about. So talk to me a little bit about your formula concerning social media and how you're engaging with your community.
Yeah, I ultimately, this was just came about by a personal decision. Like, it makes me very uncomfortable to just sit and yap in front of a mic. I'm also not a chart person like yourself. And I don't feel comfortable enough to be giving people financial advice that they would ever risk their own dollars for. But I do enjoy having a dialogue about the space, and I enjoy teaching, and I love to cook. So it just kind of became a culmination of several things that I really wanted to share with people to provide some type of value on top of my opinion of what's happening, because ultimately none of us have a crystal ball. We don't, you know, we can draw lines on charts all day, but it's just astrology for men. So I just figured it was nice if I, you know, went back to the kitchen like I was supposed to, but I still am going to give you my opinion of crypto.
And isn't that funny that you're accomplishing two things? You're doing one that's a fulfillment need for you and your family, providing nourishment, but then also giving to the crypto bros and gals in this space.
Can I ask what's better, your recipes or your trading record?
Ooh.
Oh, definitely my recipes. Yeah. Definitely.
Jackie, I would have loved, I want to just, I need to step in. I'm going to pretend I'm agent. Her trading strategy is absolutely amazing, and her cooking is equally as good. I just want to put that out. And Pulse, I mean, you know, you're in part, and I don't want to fluff you up too high because you are my buddy, but you know, you're in part the heavy voice of Web3. I mean, you run majority of the roundtable shows that I listen in on for Mario. And that's like, I would say a couple things. I think one, it's an honor, it's a privilege, and some would disagree. The haters would hate, whatever. I don't care. But at the end of the day, I think you do such an incredible job. And you see people coming on, and I want to talk about as it relates to how people are selling things, right? I feel like Web3 is a masterclass in how you present yourself to the world overall. And when you hear these meme communities coming on or these alts, it's not to bash. What are a couple takeaways from things that they could be better at before they come on and spend X number of dollars to promote themselves? What is it that they're not doing in advance that will help to prep them for the future?
This is such a $10,000 question that nobody ever asks me, CraigO. Great question. I've sat down for over 500 pitches from brands across Web3, from InfoFi to memes to DeFi to anything you can imagine. And the biggest mistake that people make is sending the wrong person to speak for them. They send someone to the interview that knows a lot about the product, too much about the product sometimes, and they come in and they just word vomit in a way that no one that's listening with their active, like, I'm going to tune in brain is gonna buy that thing. They're not effective communicators. They're not creating a need or a want for an emotional purchase to be made. If your goal is to come on, I'll give you an example. We get a lot of TGEs where they come on within hours of their upcoming TGE event. That has got to be an absolute hype show. And you got to send someone in there that's ready to whip up that crowd in a way that they are so ready to follow your call to action at the end that they're literally hyped to finish the show. And people continue to send experts in their brand that are not experts at talking about their brand. And if you don't know what that means, you need to talk to someone about it, because if you don't understand the need to hire a marketer or have a marketing professional, then you're going to miss out on almost all of it, because it is not an if you build it, they will come environment. It never was, but it's not going to be any easier in the future. It's always been easier in the past to be like vaporware, and everybody's like, yay, here's $10 million. It's not easier. So you need someone that can do this part, because if I sit down and have to listen to another guy get up there and poorly explain an amazing project, I'm punching air, man. Hire somebody, Craig.
Well, I guess that's the thing, right? Is that you have to, you're there to be the consummate professional and guide them towards, right? They're going to talk about their tokenomics. They're going to talk about their community. We're all here. WAGME. We're all going to make it. Guys, get on board. And sometimes projects, or majority of the time, they'll pump very fast. I like to watch it after. If someone's a good speaker, let them speak, let them do their thing, and then watch how the chart responds. And if you're really excited, if you're going to grab maybe a week or a day later, a week later, and then hold it for a period of time. I find that too many people are selling too fast, trying to rotate their bags on losses that they already have. It's like swinging from a long branch that becomes really short to then throw a little bit that you could have thrown a lot at to begin with. So it's like one bad choice after the other. It's sort of like this domino effect, and you almost have to kind of like temper that. And so we know that a lot of institutional money's here, right? This is the big difference in this cycle. The institutional money is what propped up this market. Before, last time during COVID, you got the COVID check, the PPM, PPH, whatever, PPM. I think that was what it was. And everybody's just throwing money at the wind. And some people won big, but very few did. 99% of people lost. So my question is, what is it going to take for this Web3 adoption to hit the normie? Is it through Coinbase? Is it through user-friendly apps or cold wallets that are really friendly to Tangent? By the way, they didn't pay me for that. I actually got the ring. I'm going to open that. But what are your thoughts on that, Pulse? And then I want to go to Jackie.
Shout out to Tangent. I've been looking forward to that ring too. I think that's going to be fun for people to play with.
Listen to
I'm programmed to say stable coins is what's going to lead to adoption, but I honestly don't know what it's going to take people to get in. I don't think Stake and Shake accepting Bitcoin is going to be the answer. I'll give you that as an example. Though those types of things don't appeal to me. And when you talk about mass adoption, I wonder how the average person is going to interact. It might be through something like, I'm so weird for saying this because no one talks about it, but like NFT ticket sales. Maybe it'll be digital passes to get into events or something like that, because that's cryptocurrency and it's NFTs, but it can be so obfuscated from the average user that they're just going to get the new Ticketmaster app, and it's going to actually be a wallet that they didn't have to generate a 12-word phrase for. And it'll work. What could I compare it to? The way that Reddit just had their NFT project, because you could get a wallet and you didn't really have to interact that same way. So I think mass adoption is probably going to look like something that we haven't pictured yet, or everybody would already be there. Everybody would already put their money in it.
By the way,
yet.
And I just want to run to Jackie in just a second, but can you name for me, Pulse, the largest NFT collection? I know it. I'm curious if you do.
What do you mean, like by
the largest collection that's out there, meaning as far as the most amount of items, supply?
Oh, shoot. No, I can't imagine. What is it?
Ticketmaster.
Is it already? See, that's what I'm talking about.
Ticketmaster. And it's so funny that you said that. And on December 8th, we're actually going to have on Matt Roth and Banana Mac to talk about NBA Top Shot. By the way, I had them send me, and Jackie, I'm coming to you. So Jackie, what are your thoughts around this?
I really feel like crypto marketing and the mass adoption conversation really need to go hand in hand. Like Pulse is talking about, do not send a technical, boring person to deliver your facts about your transactions per second, your blockchain speed, all of these digital metrics. I don't give a shit how my debit card
Ah,
works and I use it. Sorry,
yeah.
can I not swear?
You're good. No, shit,
No.
you're good. I don't think we're gonna get that. Who cares?
But I don't care how things in my life work, right? Like you don't care the metrics and all of the things about your Wi-Fi. You just want
No.
it to work.
Yep.
And everything in life for mass adoption is that way. People do not want to know the technicality of how it works. And actually, when you start spouting off with the technicalities in real life, you look like a weird autistic person who strangely knows this detail. So the way that this is going to work is it's the sell me this pen moment in the Wolf of Wall Street, where he says, tell me why I should buy this pen. We need to explain why a boomer would want to use this. You need to create something that would provide value in your life in a way that makes sense and makes it almost like you couldn't get away with not using it at this point. I remember when we would go to the grocery store, my mom used to write a physical check, and now everybody uses a debit card. You would never write a physical check. So that kind of thing, and that was a slow bleed, right? So we're not going to see it immediately. It's not going to be an overnight thing. But I do think things like Ticketmaster, video games, the point system within SocialFi, these are easy things where we just slowly integrate. And then all of a sudden, the next thing we know, this is actually infiltrated and people aren't going to notice that it's crypto or that it's a stable coin. It's
by the
just
way,
going to be the case.
Jackie, so to fill my urge, right, of like getting crypto, I got the Coinbase One card. I got the Amex. And every time I buy something, it's SaaS. And by the way, I'm not getting paid by them. Yeah, I'd love to have Brian on, but my point being is everybody, I feel like when you get in this space, you start collecting stuff just for the fact of collecting stuff and more stuff and more stuff and more shit. So my question for you is, how do you fill that urge when you're collecting things? One, two, do you think it's a platform like Coinbase that's going to bring about mass adoption? What is it?
So that credit card in particular is one of the best things I have seen in terms of getting people to accumulate Bitcoin that normally might not have on their own. Especially it's a rate like 4% or something. I think that's fantastic.
4%. It's you start at 2%, and if you have about $200,000, I think in Bitcoin, then it's 4%, right?
Okay. Yeah, I didn't look into the details, but even
Pulse
even
nodding.
2%, depending on where the price of Bitcoin is.
But
That's amazing.
here's the problem though, Jackie. If I want to transfer off to just different wallets, like I had to send Vic some money the other day and someone else as well, just kind of, it's like anytime you send off, you're getting like smacked by Coinbase, like, oh, we're going to take away your rewards. So you almost go through that full payment cycle. And here's how I don't say beat the system is pay your stuff, get your rewards, then send out your payments, and then reapply the card again. Now I'm sure there's a trick for that where it's like, oh, if you start sending off, we're gonna kick in the butt again because we're gonna penalize you because you're not supposed to send anything off. So it's a great card, but I also don't want to feel entrapped to just have more of my crypto. But it's had me working or utilizing their centralized exchange a lot more.
And that's a game too, right? Coinbase wants that market share. They want to do that before Binance does and partners with MasterCard and creates something like that.
Yeah, and exactly. And by the way, someone said, really, yes, absolutely. It is Ticketmaster. I was able to confirm that, but if you find something different, feel free to shoot me a DM. And NBA Top Shot, I think they've got like 45 million moments. I mean, guys, we just talked about bridging the gap between the normie and mass adoption, where it's going to come. Again, maybe it's in the way of the yield. LaRose, what say you on this particular issue?
As far as mass adoption goes?
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
similar to what Pulse and Jackie said, if Web3 is going to be more mass adopted, it's going to be in something where people are using something in crypto and not realize they're actually doing it, whether that's gaming, I don't know, tokenized banking. I don't know what the niche or narrative was going to be to onboard the masses, but it has to be something like that where it's going on in the background without the average person knowing what's going on. And as far as like the Coinbase issue, like I feel like those last cycle, TradFi has kind of killed the Web3 vibes. When I'm going to conferences, they feel completely different as far as like a financial standpoint. But if Coinbase were to offer me a job or an opportunity to do content for them, I would jump at the heartbeat. But Coinbase in general, like does things like this where like some of the things when they mass onboard people, it's like it's still high fees and just things of like that. I'm like this when I got in crypto, it was like we're gonna bank the unbanked or we're gonna do things to like get away from TradFi, but TradFi is here in our face today. So I don't know. I think it's gonna be a lot of navigating the things like that as far as TradFi taking over. And when mass adoption comes, I don't know what it will look like, but yeah, it's going to be. I think it's going to be through a niche or narrative or an app that is either not created yet or something like a Polymarket or something where people are doing a specific task and they didn't come because the blockchain was the fastest or the most exciting.
And I agree. By the way, I love that, LaRose. I agree with what Paul said. If you got into an Uber and said to the driver, explain to me how this engine works, you would never get involved. We put these things in our hands, these called smartphones. You know why they're smart? Because maybe we're just not as smart as we should be. So these devices are there to think for us, right? That's sort of the idea of it. So we have to be the right consumers of information and technology and have these great conversations to kind of figure out how are we plotting, planning, strategizing, and implementing that next move. So in that, I want to maybe start with you, Pulse. How should a user, and I'm going to take some advice for this myself personally, because I'm probably not the best at it, but how should I or others be using X effectively? Because I believe that's sort of the incubator that if you want to talk about credibility through all other social media platforms, I believe it starts on the mean streets of X.
There are so many directions I could go with limited time. So one, stop using hashtags. They don't work. Two, don't tag more than one person in your posts if you can avoid it. It works better if you tag them in the photo. It doesn't affect the algorithm. Three, don't put external links in your posts. The algorithm hates that because the last thing it wants you to do is take somebody away from the platform. So always give yourself a reply with the link that you need. I know it seems tedious, but it will make an impact on your content. Four, figure out how to get replies. And often that helps if you reply to your replies. There's like a point system that if you get a reply from the original poster, then it bumps you in general. Plus a thread always looks good when there's a small conversation. So you'll notice some of the biggest accounts always stick around like maybe 5 minutes after they post to reply to maybe the first couple of people. Four, turn on notifications for some of the biggest accounts. I recently got a reply from McDonald's for no reason other than just having the wherewithal to know they were posting and that I could speak their language. And it wasn't crypto related, but they replied to a brand I manage for a crypto project and their community lost their mind. So there are so many ways that you can grow your account, and it just depends on what you're doing. And this is not even crypto specific advice, although I am siloed into the crypto side of things. You have to make content that people want to see. And my profile wouldn't look like this if you didn't think this, but every single thing I do is a curated piece of content with like one person in mind. And then I'm making that post for that one person. And then if it catches people around that, like if there are people that kind of like that, then great. And there are going to be some people that maybe they don't like it and they just move past it. But I make like weirdly specific content that I curate. And I think that's important to like be mindful that when you put something out, that you're not just blathering on your timeline. You gotta put stuff out that people are going to want to come to. And then last, if you're a brand, if you're trying to get represented by a brand, be aware of that. Because the brands, funny enough, the brands that choose to allow me to represent them take that risk. They allow me to be who I am. And I'm always very thankful of the people that choose to work with me because I am allowed that brand freedom on my timeline. And I try to be upfront with them about that. Like, hey, I'm not going to change like how I act on the timeline for you because that's how you found me. And if I change the sauce now, you won't like the recipe.
Dude, I feel like, you guys know that gift that I have. I mean, that was literally just a mic drop moment. Like, I just want to just put that out there. Jackie, what are some advices? Because I mean, he gave some really technical good tips. For instance, I've been doing it wrong. I've been tagged for this stream. I literally tagged all three of you where I could have just tagged it in the photo. I'm willing to admit it. I have no problem. I'm having fun here. And if the day I'm not having fun is the day I get up from this chair and let my kids just play in this room and throw all their toys all over. But I absolutely love this space. Jackie, what are some tips, that we should be doing?
Well, I think I have two different strategies. One of them, my favorite, is kind of like a sneak attack thing. So on Mondays with Let Her Cook, we do just prediction markets and general news. But we try to stick to more culture, like mass media, actual things, topics that you can apply that most people have heard of, not strictly crypto. And you just kind of sneak the crypto in there, but you don't make it super heavy. So you make it so digestible and palatable to everyone and not just the bubble of crypto. The other thing is kind of a full pendulum swing back the other direction. And it is, if there is an event going on in a major crypto community, a Pudgy Penguins, a Pepe, when SafeMoon was off, just all of these, meme coin, a specific community, and there is some drama going on, you can drill down into that and just blow yourself up like a firework. Yep. And that is really how I got a lot of attention between that and then BitBoy's scandal when that was going on and he was crashing out. Well, he's done that several times, but one of the main times that he did that, really focusing on those big dramatic events within a specific community. So those are my two most fun tactics that I try to flip flop back and forth to.
I love it. By the way, it's interesting, be careful of the guests that you have on, but I think BitBoy would be a fun story of like where you went. Cause I remember watching him going, wow, as an early content creator, I was the thank you guy on Spaces. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me up. I'm so grateful. But he was like the guy, oh my God. But he was the guy who you're just like, kind of like Teflon. You just thought he couldn't fall. And yet when he started to fall, you just watched how fast he just hit that ground and just went splat. I mean, can you imagine I can't, look, I'm happily married 11 years, but I can't imagine, I think it was his girlfriend or whatever. And literally, I think the girl was in the house and the Lambo's and the Lambo was going to be, I mean, it was just like you have jealousy, a loss of money is like the ultimate explosion emotionally for a man that you would have to put me into a community because I just wouldn't be right anymore. LaRose, what are your thoughts around earning, in Web3? And then maybe I'll just kind of finish off my thoughts on that. And then I want to talk about the Genius Act and the Clarity Act.
For me, I've kind of found a little niche or found a need as far as creating IRL events. Last 2 years, I did events for MetaMask. I've interviewed Hedera, Solana Foundation, people from the Ethereum ecosystem. So for me, is find a need and filling it. So I do more of my content in person. As far as that, I would say creating an environment for like know your target audience would be one of my top tips. I know it's cheesy, but one of my sayings is what's best for the new person is best for everyone. I always try to leave people in a better place than I found them. So when I host IRL events, like a lot of it, yes, is fun. Like you want to create memorable events for, memorable things for people to take photos and talk about the event. But if we want to do mass adoption, like when new people come in, are they flourishing? Are they learning? Do they come away with takeaways to tell their new friends? Or do they come and they got, some awkward guy shilling a crypto PFP that, went to 0 3 years ago is talking to them. So for me, I just try to create local IRL events that, is educational and that like attracts different crypto communities or technology companies that want to promote their product and service when they come and they see the type of audience. Not only is it just professionals, but it's also new people, which is like new users potentially. So for me, I focus on in-person content. And again, just know your audience. Who are you trying to penetrate is kind of like something that benefited me a lot the last 2 years.
No, I love that. And again, I said, you're just like that face of honesty. You're like, oh, Sal, that person lied to me. Like, Matt won't lie. I don't know you other than through our conversations, but the honesty that you breed, I've been fortunate enough to be sponsored 7 times for a short duration. So for instance, one was CoinZoom. They're a centralized exchange, a lot smaller than Coinbase, FINRA and FinCEN compliant. I think I have that correct. They are an incredible exchange, and they have a partnership with Visa. I have their debit card. That has been absolutely phenomenal. So to work with great companies, I was able to interview the CEO, the CTO, the CMO, and worked with them for a period of time. I also worked with some other companies, some meme communities. I love my Lamb Wolf community, and I love the boys club. Obviously, look, Pepe, I hope. I'd like to see. And Pulse, I talked to you about this yesterday, and I don't want to dive too far into it because we already talked about Doge and Cheeb and Pepe and Got to Feel. But look, I want to see some of these memes be here around for multi-cycles and not just a number go up or down thing. Because like right now, my numbers are down, but I just like the vibe of the community, the fun of the spaces, the memery, the gifts, sort of that way to kind of escape. When you get onto a space late at night, everybody's asleep, I'm folding laundry, and I would just listen, and I just so enjoyed just the fun and the creativity. But I also know that there's a fragility when numbers down. I mean, you've also got Peasy here. But all of that to be said, I love products, and one of the conversations I'm going to have coming up in next year is actually with an RWA company that does Pokemon cards. I got a nice collection of Pokemon from the BZ. They pull this claw. It's so cool. It's sort of gamification meets RWA. Oh my God. You already know about this, LaRose?
I don't, but when you said Pokemon, that got me excited.
Oh man.
My inner nerd just came out.
I've never collected Pokemon in my life, and I've got it. And then obviously I'm wearing the ring. They finally got me the right size. So I'm going to have to try this out. So my wife's going to be like later, where's the ring? And I'll be like, babe, it was great 11 years, but I found a commitment that's really good for, memes and stuff, maybe I'll put it on her finger and she'll be like really amazed and blown away, but probably not. All right, guys, let's talk about the Clarity Act and the Genius Act. Maybe let's start with Genius. Pulse, you being the genius that you are, what do you see as far as the Genius Act? What do you think it means to development? And what do you think this administration is doing to make the difference?
Well, at this point, I'm worried that half of everything that we were supposed to have has been performative because a lot of the stuff that was supposed to happen hasn't happened. I tried a test the other day, and I started talking to people about David Sachs without giving them any kind of a qualifier of who he was, and nobody knew who he was. And that was the test. It was like, uh-oh, that's not good. They're like, who's that? I'm like, oh, no, that's the problem. He's the crypto guy. The crypto AIs are. The Genius Act and the Clarity Act and all the things that I was promised, the number one thing that I stomped my feet about was that we were told that the United States was going to have a Bitcoin treasury. And then it changed like day one, I thought we were going to be buying Bitcoin. And then it went from Bitcoin treasury to digital asset treasury. And that first slip, Craig, was all it took for me to know that we had been duped. It was that easy because it's all it takes is a little, a couple inches here and there. And then before you know it, you look back and you're a mile away from your starting point. So here we are now, and still the United States has not spent a single dollar of its own money to purchase any Bitcoin to add to any treasury at this point. So I'm honestly bearish on our prospects with this administration getting anything done, particularly in the face of the pushback that they're getting in the face of their primaries and stuff, like, not to get into like a lot of US politics, but it freaks me out that things didn't happen. That first 100 days was it. And they were so focused. I know that you could say there were other things going on geopolitically, but we didn't get any of what I needed, Craig.
Well, Pulse, it makes me think. I said this today earlier on. People post with their virtues. I'm this, I'm for this, I'm for that. And people vote with their wallet. And hence where I think a lot of people, which you just said, people I think felt duped. But again, all politicians across the board, left or right, are we really either or? Quite frankly, I think most people are centered. Do your thing in your home. Let me do my thing in mine. Let me make my money. I think all four of us believe in the correct type of capitalism, not crony capitalism, fair market enterprise. I think these are all reasonable things. But, it's funny. I'm going to dive a little bit more into the crypto czar. I haven't really, I don't say study him as much as possible. But when you mentioned that name, I'm like, I've heard it a bunch of times. When you mentioned, we went to a digital asset treasury, not Bitcoin. And it was funny. I was reading Scott Melker's newsletter, who I had on a few weeks ago. And, one of the things in his newsletter this morning is the next 12 to 18 months matter more than the next halving. And, it was funny how the halving was the news. And if Bitcoin broke its dominant structure in this 50-week moving average, if it happened for 2 Sundays in a row, then we shouldn't be in an altcoin market, but we're not. So the question I ask is, I hang my hat on this idea that this administration, and I hope, right, I want to be hopeful on that, is that this administration is putting things in place to support digital builders, maybe even content creators, and products and services. Like, again, this is a Web3 product. This means that I get to hold the custody to my crypto right here on my ring. And I get to utilize an app, by the way, that they are open source. I did check that. But I think that's really cool stuff. And you have RWAs, real experience where you're getting some real value. You're not losing all your money in one swipe. Jackie, what are your thoughts on being a genius? Are there any things that you're seeing from, maybe it's just an overall administration question? Where are we with this administration, and are there certain things that will make you bullish? Because to Pulse's point, yeah, I mean, going from a Bitcoin treasury to a digital asset treasury, sort of this bait and switch, and we look back to that Trump token, we were all taken for this ride, right? Everybody's going to be rich. What's your thought?
Oh boy.
It's okay. Sorry,
Yeah.
You're in a safe space.
Yeah, I think on one hand, the first 100 days comment, right, of like we were kind of flying with several things, the guy who started the Silk Road, he ended up getting let out. That was another, I think Pulse is going to throw up his name. Ross Ulbright gets released. I feel like that was a promise. Gary Gensler was out, but that was because he basically fired himself. So there were some steps made. Now, what I will say is that the difference between crypto and the difference between government is that one moves incredibly fast and the other forever will be incredibly slow, always. I do think that the slipping of the verbiage from Bitcoin to digital asset is, not a good sign. That was a little bit of a red flag. But ultimately, with the question of like, oh, we were supposed to start buying Bitcoin. My question is kind of, well, with what money? We are in debt up to our fucking eyeballs. Like, we're trying to pay down the debt. We're trying to do tariffs just to be able to pay this down.
Doge, Jackie, we got Doge. We're gonna get a pie chart, Jackie.
Okay, all right.
The amount of money they're collecting won't even pay our debt. It's like a sliver.
Buy Bitcoin with what? I think their best option is to just seize more of it from people who've committed a crime.
So that means that yeah, I look. I think we handled the politics and crypto pretty well. Maybe I want to talk a little bit about the Clarity Act. And I'm gonna start with you, Jackie, and then I'm gonna move over to LaRose, and I'll finish with you, Pulse, on that. What are your thoughts around the Clarity Act?
So, from what I understand, the Clarity Act is really a lot around stablecoins. And if you look back at the big disasters of this last 4-year cycle, of the FTXs, of the Celsius, of the Tron, whatever the other one was, the guy that's in jail right now, Do Kwon, whatever his one was, Luna. Thank God, I blacked out. I'm like blacking this memory out. That's how bad it was. But I think that the Clarity Act is really in place to make sure that we don't see anything like that again. And like I mentioned before, I don't see this drawdown being as bad because I just don't think we have that many black swan events that we could possibly endure at this point. And I think that the Clarity Act really kind of shores that up for us so that we do finally have some rules. And ultimately, I know that as much as the crypto space like really rails against this idea of like, well, we don't want daddy government to be setting up any rules. We don't. But at the same time, daddy government would have protected us from like an FTX situation if they were forced to have done business in the in the US, and if Luna would have been as well. An algorithmic stable coin that had like not nearly enough liquidity. Are you kidding me? That was bound to happen.
Jackie, 2 weeks before, my buddy had about 250,000. And no, we don't read charts, but I think we get a feel for sentiment. And I remember just taking one look at that dude, Sam Bankman-Fried. And, I remember looking at him and I was like, bro, it's like, you made enough money. Pull your money out now. There's no, oh man, this is going to 1 million. I was like, no, it's not. And sure as can be, it didn't. And it's funny when you speak of the Clarity Act, right? It's kind of like the politicians have to openly be accountable. And when stuff is done in the public, neither left nor right can defy that because it will make them look foolish. And I think enough time on the previous party delaying on certain things, it actually showed all the scammers and bad actors. And to the last administration, just from a crypto standpoint, one of the things that really hurt them in that last running, aside from a bunch of other potential things, was the fact that they totally snubbed crypto. They laughed at it. They frowned on it. But when you have payment rails like Venmo and PayPal, and you can, have crypto and send crypto on other centralized platforms. Why would you, knowing that everything is going digital, why would you not pay this attention? And so with the Clarity Act, right, it's a legislative framework designed to provide clear classification and regulatory guidance around digital assets and blockchain operations in the United States. Its goal is to reduce ambiguity. I'm totally butchering that word. Thank you. I'm not even going to try again. Support responsible innovation and offer builders more predictability. Okay, sounds great. LaRose, where does this land on you concerning Clarity Act?
For me, when I look at the Clarity Act, I look at it as the U.S. kind of using it a way to kind of extend their debt. These stablecoin companies are buying U.S. treasuries for a yield while people are using their stablecoins. So for me, I feel like this is a way, for the way U.S. looks at it, is trying to keep the treasury in the yield in the United States as opposed to offshore. And as far as this whole topic around politics, around, Genius Act and Clarity Act, I'm in the camp that, code is freedom of speech. So like people creating new code and new smart contracts should be like protected under the First Amendment, because this is like freedom of speech, the freedom to create. In the last administration, they were so antagonizing like innovation. And when I worked for the SEC on the MetaMask case, when we sued the lawsuit, if a lot of that stuff would have came out, people would have a lot of head nods. Let's just say Gary Gensler, what the SEC was doing, going after crypto companies, asking for private information, trying to kill the industry, is not a path that we would want to go down. So I'm excited that this current administration, from a crypto standpoint, is here. But again, to kind of go back to what some of the other guests have talked about, some of the things that this administration has done, it's hard to think that the sun is always going to be shining when a lot of people are making money, and it's not, you question whether people are making money and it's not for the betterment of the industry, but for pockets to get filled. So I will say that for me is the challenge to navigate with this current administration. But I will say the previous administration, how they were going after innovation, I do not think is the answer as well.
Yeah. It reminds me when you spoke about, the things that the government was doing, that stranglehold demanding certain things from its citizens, reminded me of something else, but maybe that's just totally skipped my mind from another types of mandates in some sense or another, big bully brother on the pulpit. I guess for me, Jackie, to you, 2026, I think this is the year that I think you're cooking in the kitchen along with your take as you're gaining more experience, building more relationships. I think the sky is the limit for you. What do you want to see for your brand in the coming year?
I definitely want to start kind of adding some things back in. I had to get, decent at the plate I was going to spin with one particular thing and then start building from there. So I definitely want to get to, 5 solid days of actual content. Right now we're at like 2 or 3 and some clips. So definitely want to increase my efficiency there so that, we can really start to build out this, wheelhouse of things that, the cooking, the comedy, the crypto, that these things really start to blend and bleed into a place that becomes really cohesive for everybody and makes them very comfortable, and that, it gets people to stretch. I think that humor is one of the greatest teachers. It's a much more digestible way for people to listen to something or get their brain to see it in a different way than they ever would have considered before. And I really just want to continue with that, just bigger and better.
I love that. And Pulse, for you, my friend, you've got a personal brand. You also do a lot of hosting for the Roundtable pretty much every day in this space. What do you see for yourself next year? And what's that one thing you're going to do to continue to level up your brand overall?
So I believe in manifestation. 2026 will see me continue to headline in-person speaking events and MC opportunities, like the one that I had at Futurist recently. While when the market returns, it will allow me to continue growing the team of Spaces hosts and VC professionals that have been working with me for the last year as part of Pulse Digital's team of Spaces hosts, including LaRose and some other folks. Jackie is in these groups too. And I want to see these people make the money that I've made this year, because you can make a lot of money doing Spaces, but you have to make a brand out of it. And next year, I want to continue to climb higher, which is outside of X, because frankly, between you and me, kind of freaks me out thinking about my entire brand relying on this single app working correctly. And I'm trying to find a way to diversify, and the in-person events are going to be that, while I continue to grow beyond my own schedule, allowing my other hosts to pick up shows, and I can take a little bit off the top from all that, bro. So big things in 2026 for Pulse Digital and everybody that's running with me. So I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, brother. And LaRose, and then I'll finish off. What are your wants for next year as you continue to grow and evolve in this space?
Yeah, continue. I want to get back and become more consistent with posting more educational content for sure. I think my next pivot is more strategic events in the Web3 space. I've hosted some AI and real estate events. Right now, there's a gap here. There's no big conferences in Texas. And a lot is happening in the state of Texas when it comes to crypto. And I think with my network and my capabilities, I might be able to help fill that void a little bit. So 2026 might be a year of big events in Texas in crypto, played by a small part or a big part by LaRoseDigital.
I love that, man. And I have a handful of things. First is I want to continue to build my relationships with all three of you. I think you are incredible human beings, and from a distance to be able to watch what you're doing, just complete admiration. I'm going to continue to do my bi-weekly streams. I'm going to take some of Pulse's advice on the correct ways to post. I'm going to have some fun and experiment with these bi-weekly streams, having some of the biggest names and guests on. And it never goes beyond me. Some of the conversations and brainstorming that we get to do. LaRose, I do want to just finish up on a couple quick things. I wanted to talk to you, if I can, about Solana Breakpoint. What is that? Why should people be aware of it? And as I'm speaking specifically concerning the conference.
So everyone has their sports teams. For me, Solana Breakpoint, I'm trying to see if I can go. But for me, the reason why it has its attention, everyone can have a blockchain that they like. I'm in the camp that Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana is the one that should have attention. Again, I'm limited to the knowledge in my own mind, so maybe there's stuff I'm missing. But for me, going to conferences, hosting events, Ethereum, Bitcoin, and Solana are the blockchains that are talked about the most. And for me, Solana, again, I know they're the meme coin casino. So a lot of the startups and stuff that happens there is not always the most exciting thing. But Ethereum and Solana, for me, is where Solana's are like where startups go to launch. If I'm a startup and I'm a founder, when I'm joining spaces, the founder's always saying, oh, I'm launching on Base, Polygon, or Solana. So for me, Solana is a place where startups are happening. So Solana Breakpoint is where a lot of founders and startups will be. So for me, that's why it has a lot of my attention. If Web3 is going to get mass adoption, I think it's going to be from a blue chip protocol in the space or a new startup. So something like a Solana Breakpoint for me is something to keep an eye on.
Yep, absolutely. And Kings of Cardano said, check out the flow chain. You know, I've been very much involved. We actually had Ali on. He was one of our first conversations. He's the head dev over there. That was phenomenal. So looking forward to doing more. BZ's actually on that blockchain. So I want to just finish with any final thoughts for today. Jackie, ladies first. What are your final thoughts from today's stream? Any thoughts that you come away with? Any ideas?
Well, thank you so much for having me. I love your show. I love all of your clips. You are crushing the hard work, like apps, and making it look absolutely effortless. So, it's just been so fun to be here today. So much of crypto feels like an audience of one, an auditorium of one, just clapping for yourself. And, you know, we're all over the place and we're so disconnected that it's so nice to have these, you know, little meetups where we get to talk to just more than one person over a Telegram chat. So I really appreciate it. And yeah, love what you're doing. And I can't wait to see all of what I know will be massive success for you next year. And Pulse and LaRose as well. I mean, you guys are some of my favorite people.
Absolutely, man. I love this. Pulse, what are some final thoughts from today's stream?
there are millions of dollars every day that are trading hands on X, and you could have a slice of that money without even trading cryptocurrency if you could just figure out how to monetize what you're good at in this space. I said this 11 months ago in my hosts group of that I think everyone in here could make $100,000 if they could just get out of their own way and get their self applied consistently to something. So whether it's graphic design or making music or making art, it's never been easier to make your money in crypto, and you don't have to trade to do it, because that's the easiest way to lose your money. So my advice to anybody watching the stream right now is, if you want to be like CraigO, tap in, because he didn't just start doing this overnight. There's no such thing as a natural athlete. You have to show up every day and do the work like he did, and you better hit the notification button or I'm coming for you. Appreciate you, Craig, for having me on.
I love you. And before we come to you, LaRose, Pulse, do you remember this conversation?
Boy, do I.
Okay. LaRose, what are your final thoughts from today?
I feel like that was an inside joke mic drop, but I'll rewatch the episode to catch that. For me, no hero, no game. What story are you telling? For me, honestly, the reason why I joined this space, you guys are some of my favorite people. Pulse has the top, Spaces host. Jackie, I love your news segments. They make me smile so much. CraigO, I see you on TikTok all the time. Your consistency and your podcast creating, you're going to be a bigger, huge name in Web3. So I'm just super excited to be here. My takeaway is, what story are you telling when you're onboarding people in Web3? Are you creating heroes? If not, no game.
You know what? I love that. And by the way, I only want to go with call big only with the right people, only with the best conversations. If not, I don't want to go big at all, because we know this space has a lot of foolery. And by the way, after Pulse can at least share that sort of that insight, but let me just say, I got some of the best advice I ever got. And after that, a lot of things changed for the better. So let's just say that we rise as a community, and I appreciate all three of you for coming on today. Let's continue these conversations, and let's have you guys all back in 2026 at some point as I continue to do these bi-weekly streams. On that note, I want everybody to have a happy and a healthy Thanksgiving, and we'll be back December 8th for an incredible episode on X and YouTube. Right now, we're also going on to Twitch, and hopefully maybe we'll figure out the rumbles of rumbles, and we'll get on there as well, maybe a couple other platforms. I'm going to be talking about all things NBA Top Shot. On that sense, follow us on X. You got the notifications, Pulse. You got that hat. You see it, the muscle. Oh, man, I'm in good shape. But, man, I was a muscle. Put away the guns. I'm feeling a little jealous. All right. I love you guys.